the U.S. government has basically admitted that they never intended for they never thought Ukraine could win, and they knew that they would just kill hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians for things that the U.S. likes, for things the United States government kind of wanted to get. The first thing I'm going to show you here is this Time article. So this is in mainstream media. It says it's titled, Why, and this is January 19th, Why Biden's Ukraine Win Was Zelensky's Loss. Of course, it's not a Ukraine win. There's a bit of propaganda. This is kind of what they call a limited hangout. Time gives you some of the truth, and I'll tell you how they're also kind of lying to you. When Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 3 years ago, President Joe Biden set 3 objectives for the U.S. response. Ukraine's victory was never among them. Never. The phrase the White House used to describe its mission at the time, supporting Ukraine for as long as it takes, unquote, was intentionally vague. It also raised the question, as long as it takes to do what? Yeah, vague on purpose. So this is from Eric Green, who served on Biden's National Security Council at the time, overseeing Russia policy. He said, we were deliberately not talking about the territorial parameters. Basically, we knew that Russia would beat Ukraine eventually. We just wanted to see how long we could hold them off while they killed Ukrainians. In other words, it made no promise to help Ukraine recover all of the land Russia had occupied. The reason was simple, Green says. In the White House's view, doing so was beyond Ukraine's ability. Oh, what? So they never had the ability to defeat Russia? Meaning they were only going to inevitably die and lose ground? Then why would you tell them to fight? Why would you tell them to die if you knew they had no chance of winning? Doing so was beyond Ukraine's ability, even with robust help from the West. Quote, that was not going to be a success story ultimately. The more important objective was for Ukraine to survive as a sovereign democratic country free to pursue integration with the West. Now, of course, that quote is also a lie because we know that the U.S. and Britain stopped the peace talks 1 month into the conflict, which were about to be signed. A peace deal was about to be signed with Russia. They stopped it 1 month in because they wanted drag out. They wanted to put more sanctions on Russia. They wanted to harm Russia's resources. They wanted to separate Russia from Europe. I actually think that's their probably number one reason for it. That part succeeded for the United States. And they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That was one of the 3 objectives Biden set. He also wanted the U.S. and its allies to remain united, and he insisted, say by united, he means Europe becomes feudal states to the United States, which the U.S. got that as well. He insisted on avoiding direct conflict between Russia and NATO. That's bullshit. It seems did a lot of things to try and push Russia to the point of direct conflict with NATO. It really seems like they wanted to see how close they could get. He said, Green says, it's unfortunately the kind of success where you don't feel great about it. Oh, you don't? Just that you killed hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians for your hegemonic wars? Because there's so much suffering for Ukraine and so much uncertainty about where it's ultimately going to land. But I know that all of you are going, oh, well, we knew that. We knew the U.S. didn't care about Ukraine. But this is a big admission for mainstream media. And it's also covered by Kit Clarenberg. This is in Popular Resistance. We put up a lot of Popular Resistance on radindymedia.com. If you're looking for a news site where you can find all the best sources for free, radindymedia.com. Anyway, this is from Kit Clarenberg. Says it's official. United States is abandoning Ukraine. So he talks about the Time magazine article and how significant that admission is. He says the proxy war's front line right now teeters constantly on total collapse. Kiev is facing an eventual and seemingly inevitable rout of some magnitude, with the conflict likely settled solely on Russia's terms, and Zelensky, or whoever replaces him, having no negotiating position to speak of. In December 2024, Empire House journal Foreign Policy openly advocated cutting Kiev out of eventual peace talks. Because basically we're admitting that the Ukraine is a puppet of the United States. London was also at the forefront of pressuring NATO member states to permit Ukraine to use foreign supplied weapons in order to attack inside Russia, which could likewise produce a long-sought hot war against Russia. Several Western countries, including the U.S., have offered such authorization, yet Russia has consistently responded to strikes deep inside their territory with heavy-duty counterattacks, which Kiev has been unable to repel. Meanwhile, London's invitation to its allies to become more overtly involved has been rebuffed. In November 2024, pro-government outlet Ukrainska Pravda, so it's a pro-Ukraine outlet, published a startling investigation documenting in forensic detail how the October 2023 to June 2024 Krinky operation was essentially British and never spoke of by Ukrainian officials. Today, the 9-month effort saw wave after wave of British trained and equipped Marines attempt to secure a beachhead. So these are British trained Ukrainians, secure a beachhead in the river adjacent village in Russia-controlled Kherson. Poorly prepared, many died attempting to reach Krinky due to relentless artillery, drone, flamethrower, mortar fire of those that survived the nightmarish journey. Most were then killed under a constant blitz in marsh conditions. Russia's onslaught grew so inexorable, evacuating casualties or providing forces with even basic supplies became borderline impossible. Fast forward today, Britain and France are openly discussing sending in peacekeepers to Ukraine. Macron suggested formally deploying his country's forces to Ukraine to halt Moscow's advance, but it appears the peacekeeping plan is gonna not happen. On Donald Trump's inauguration day, CIA created Radio Free Europe, the CIA outlet essentially, published an explainer guide on why sending European troops to Ukraine is a non-starter. Trump made numerous comments reiterating his commitment to ending the proxy war. He said, quote, "We're going to have to settle up with Russia." Notably, the president sympathized with Moscow's written-in-stone determination Kiev not be enrolled in NATO, warned the situation would escalate to be much worse, and stated his hope that the conflict could be wrapped up within 6 months. I mean, how insane is it that Trump is coming across as the peacemaker here? He completely supports Israel's genocide in Gaza. He just took off the ban on 2,000-pound bombs by Israel so Israel can create more death and destruction. And yet the Democrats and Biden are so bloodthirsty and warmongers that at least on Ukraine, Trump is looking like a peacemaker. Trump is looking like a Nobel Peace Prize candidate. How insane is that? And meanwhile, Trump's trying to kill as many of poor Americans as he can. These people are sociopaths. I mean, they really are. They all are. All the ones. If you get to that position, you're a sociopath. And for those of you who are, and I bet a lot of you are, I mean, if you found my channel that is heavily suppressed in the corner of the internet and you realize why it's different than the others, you are probably this type of person. If you are part of this fight for a better world, to create positive change, to create a world where really there should be no one with unclean water and can't have a house, not even a house, just a roof over their head, just a room, can't have a room. If you're in that fight for that kind of reality, it's a marathon, and we are never going to see it completed. There is not going to be a "we're done, we won" moment. If you're in a marathon and you're on mile 5 and you're just like, I'm just gonna kill it for this next mile and then collapse in a heap on a mile 6, that's not really how you get to the end of a marathon. That's not the best technique. So I think the same goes for this fight, for a moral, just world, for a fight where there are not sociopaths running our systems. We need large, mass systemic change, and that doesn't come overnight. And I have to remind myself of that, because sometimes I do. Sometimes I just like subconsciously start to think like, we're about to win, or we'll, a week from now, we'll be done with it. I don't know. It's subconscious, it's not a rational voice. And I have to remind myself, this is a marathon. This is a marathon.